SmackDown review for the April 4th episode of SmackDown. I'm Will, that's Brandon. We're the Cousins of Destruction Wrestling Podcast. As always, let's cheers, talk about some wrestling.
Yeah, absolutely. And before we get into this, we do this every week, Raw, SmackDown, PLEs. So if you know other people that would enjoy wrestling content like this, make sure to like, share, subscribe, all that fun stuff.
Yeah, and come watch our live streams. We do it for SmackDown, Raw, and everything. So we need to be better about telling everybody to join the stuff because we love community to join us. Let's do it. Yeah. Let's get to it. We started in Chicago, Illinois, our first stop back after the great European tour that was. We had CM Punk in his own town open the show, and they were hyped. And CM Punk gave them back that hypeness by just glazing them for a solid the first 10 minutes of the show. That's kind of what we were doing here. We were very much all about Chicago until he started talking about WrestleMania, and he said, I finally have a date to WrestleMania, and I am the main event. And when he said that, ladies and gentlemen, it was Paul Heyman. He decided to come out, and he gave Punk his flowers as well, and he gave Chicago their flowers as well. So it was all good. He said, I was late, but it's no disrespect to this great city of Chicago or my best friend, CM Punk. You belong in the main event. I begged you to join Roman at War Games, and you did it. You did me a favor. You saved the family, and you saved the bloodline. I thank you, and I have one more favor to ask you tonight. And CM Punk goes, all right, 2 favors. What can I do for you? And Paul says, please tell me what the favor is. And the whole crowd goes wild because that's been the favor's been the thing ever since Survivor Series, right? And CM Punk says, is Roman here? Is Roman here tonight yet? And Paul Heyman says no. And he says, you know what? I think I need to tell you what the favor is together because it affects Roman Reigns as well. So when he gets here, you tell me and we'll do it a little bit later. And it set the tone for all of SmackDown. That's what we were getting at the end of the night. But what do you think about this opening segment from this?
It was fine.
Yeah, it was fine.
Nothing to really write home about. It builds interest throughout the end of the show.
Exactly.
It was an interesting twist, I think, to have Heyman not know what the favor was, because I think a lot of people, at least, were like, oh, well, he knows what the favor is. We just don't know what the favor is. So to hear, like, what is the favor and Heyman not knowing, I think is an interesting twist, as we'll obviously get to later. But nothing crazy here.
No. Yeah, I'm with you. I definitely thought Paul knew what the favor was this entire time. I thought he was kind of hiding that from Roman. I thought that would be part of the storyline, but obviously not. But it was the perfect tone. It was the perfect set point of like point A, point Z. Like that was our end goal of the night. So I was like, oh, I have to stick around and watch, of course. So I got to give it a pop for those reasons, right?
Yeah. But
we move on to the first real pop of the night because Rey Fenix would make his debut. And we were all like, who is he fighting? Who is he fighting? We come back from commercial break, and it's Nathan Frazier from Fraxium NXT. Axiom was on SmackDown a couple weeks ago against Gunther when they were overseas, and now Nathan Frazier is getting a call up for a match against Rey Fenix, and it turned out to be the perfect little opponent for him because these two put on an absolute show, and it was fast. I mean, the beginning was just back and forth wrestling nonsense. It was incredible until Nathan Frazier would go for a suicide dive, and people were going to point it out. His feet caught the rope, and he quote-unquote botched it, all right? He was going fast. He was doing a great job.
Belly flop.
He belly flopped it, and it was totally fine. But Rey Fenix would respond with that by going up to the top rope himself, and he did some sort of like suicide corkscrew dive off the top rope to Phoenix to
360 looking thing.
To Frazier off the top rope. I was like, this dude can go. And Frazier would actually they gave him a bunch of time here. Frazier would have a good comeback. He'd give a nice like superplex, and then he would roll the superplex up into a neck breaker himself. So Frazier got a good amount of offense here. He was looking great. Eventually Fraxium's gonna make it up to the main roster. So if you're a casual fan that hasn't been watching him, this dude's great. Go watch NXT. We'd eventually get the running amigo top rope kick from Rey Fenix, which is great, where he literally runs the top rope and knees Frazier. It's really good. We get the fire driver, the 1-2 there. But we'd eventually hit the Mexican muscle buster, the MMB from Rey Fenix, and he would get the win 1-2-3 in his debut. We get a short little Byron Saxton interview afterward where he basically asked the question of what's next for Rey Fenix now that he's here, and he said, I am WWE Adibo. So that was great. Rey Fenix debuts on SmackDown. The match was absolutely great with Nathan Frazier. Great to see him. Can't wait for what's next for him. But speaking of what's next for him, we would cut backstage, and Legado del Fantasma is backstage eyeing down Rey Fenix. And Escobar wants him to join the group. He's happy to see it, but Berto has other plans. He's pissed about it. He doesn't think that he belongs in Legado, whatever their name is. And so next week we get Berto versus Rey. But a great debut for Rey Fenix, and that's the key here, Pop.
Yeah, exactly. That's the key. They built it up for weeks and maybe a month or so. And I think you had brought up, like, when was the last time he's been in the ring? Because obviously he was with the AEW and he hadn't been there for a while in terms of wrestling. But he didn't really show any ring rust. I mean, he was ready to go and, opening bell, let's get after it. The entrance was a little much.
Oh, my God.
I know they're trying to maybe rival Penta's, obviously, but this was a little bit too much. I would maybe tone down the entrance a little bit. But, I mean, in-ring stuff, you got what you wanted. You got the highlight reel. Nathan Frazier was a fantastic first choice. It'll be nice to see him when he gets brought up to the main roster. He's obviously trained by Seth Rollins. Just really good stuff here. Great opening match. Great way to start the actual wrestling of the night. In terms of the Berto, Escobar, all that stuff, I think that's just a one-off. I think that's just a, hey, let's get Rey Fenix on the card again as much as we can sort of thing. That's at least what I'm going to hope for. I'm going to be positive there and hope that that's just the one-off.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of Rey's Phoenix first match, phenomenal. Exactly what we want to do. A showcase of what he can do. He's immediately over from everybody there in their arena, so can't wait for that. Hopefully they give him the Penta treatment on SmackDown, because SmackDown needs a Penta, really, in my opinion. They need that very over superstar guy that can just come out and put on banger matches every single week. But hopefully they're not aiming him toward Legado del Fantasma, because that would really suck. That was our fear on Raw, of Penta going right toward the LWO, and they thankfully did not do that. So hopefully they're not going to do that here. Hopefully it is a one-off, like you say, and he just fights Berto and we're done with it. But overall, looking forward to more Rey Fenix. He's at home. He feels at home here. And it's going to be exciting. Can't wait.
Yeah. Fresh little beginning here. New beginning for him. And like I said, shout out Nathan Frazier for this one. Josh, you'll love that.
We got a back and forth vignette promos between Drew McIntyre and Mr. Damian Priest for their feud. Nothing in person this week, but Drew wearing an eye patch because he did actually get glass in his eye from the attack last week. I know he was saying it and people thought it was just kind of a kayfabe story thing. Reports are that he actually did get glass in his eye. Now, did it damage his eye? Probably not, but they're making the most out of it. It's Drew McIntyre an eye patch. That's badass. All right.
Think about how painful that is.
Glass in your eye? Yeah. Think about how scary that is.
That's what I'm saying.
Oh my God. But he said, Damian, you took both of my Mania title opportunities. He's talking about Rumble and the Chamber. He said, and you won't even face me like a man. No, you had to hide in the shadows and attack me last week. I'm coming for you. And guess what? I'm going to need to pray. And that's a bad thing, because when I pray, bad things happen. Boom, doom, doom. But then we get the rebuttal later in the night from Damian Priest, somewhere in my notes here, right here.
Did you have it marked?
I did. And
boom.
He said, Drew is the victim per usual. He always says he's the victim. No holes in your logic, huh? Guess what? You said that I screwed you. You were always focused on CM Punk, and you ended up screwing yourself because of it. But guess what? I'm the bad guy. And he said, I just did my job, but I'm the villain, of course. You are a hypocrite who points at everybody else. You're a junkie who gets off on cheap pops and playing victim. I am your victim, or I am your villain, so start praying, because I'm ready for it. Good back and forth here. Would have liked to see them in person. It's one of those feuds where a lot of people are a little hesitant on it still. We are high on it after last week. It was good stuff, but it's like we're a couple weeks out from Mania. I wouldn't mind seeing them in person. But in terms of promos, I think we this was good stuff. I'm not hating on any of it. I think Damian did better than Drew this week, which is good. Popping it.
Yeah, I'm gonna pop it. I mean, it's not by much.
Yeah.
To me, this is kind of like the opening segment. Like, it didn't really do a whole lot for me. We were already kind of sold on this feud as it is. I feel like if you are already sold on it, you don't really need anything else.
Yep.
But if you are not sold on it, I would say this did not do anything to further that for you.
Yeah.
Like, they wouldn't bring somebody over that's not sold on it to sell them. They are going to have a face-to-face next week. Damian says that. but nothing crazy here.
Yeah, wait till next week. My only takeaway from this was like Damian can cut it in vignettes, which is good. You need him to cut it in vignettes and stuff if you're not going to be able to do it in person, because Drew, I think, will tear him up in person. So if you're going to give them backstage stuff like this and where they're away from each other, make sure Damian looks good. And he did. He looked great. And I want Drew McIntyre to rock an eye patch to WrestleMania. I want it to be one-eyed Drew, because that's awesome. I saw it and I was like, yes.
Yeah. And then at the end, like right before maybe the bell rings, maybe he just... But no, he's got 2 eyes.
Makeup. No, it needs to be makeup. He's all Nick Fury'd out. It'd be awesome. We go backstage now, and Braun Strowman is talking that smack to Solo Sikoa, who's talking that smack right back, because Braun and Jacob Fatu have a last man standing match later tonight that determines the number 1 contender for LA Knight's U.S. Championship title. And Solo is talking that smack, and everything is happening. And LA Knight shows up, and he says that Braun Strowman needs to keep his eye on the prize, because LA Knight wants to face Braun Strowman for some reason. He's kind of got his back in this situation. And then he tells Solo to get your boys together, get your boys in line. And Tama Tonga's right there next to him, and he just starts going, yeah, doing his Tama Tonga thing that he does.
Him and LA Knight face tonight.
Yeah. And he said, you know what? Let's go start this match right now. So LA Knight turns around and walks to the ring. And we follow him to the ring with the camera, one of those backstage shots, and it's great. But we get back, and it was LA Knight versus Tama Tonga, which would start out very back and forth until the match spills to the outside, and LA Knight's doing the slams off the announce table. And then when he threw Tama Tonga back in the ring, Solo Sikoa, of course, is on the outside, and that means shenanigans needs to happen. So he distracts enough for Tama Tonga to get the advantage, right? And Tama Tonga is doing all the good stuff, getting the attacking, and him and Solo would actually trade off, distracting the ref so the other one could get blows off on LA Knight. So that was nice to see, heel action happening. But we get the LA Knight comeback, the elbow, until he would go for the BFT, but Solo would pop up on the apron, and Tama Tonga would throw LA Knight into the apron, and that's when Solo got involved with everything. But LA Knight would reverse the spike from Solo Sikoa, push him off the apron, or Tama Tonga ran into him. One of the two happened. Somehow Solo gets pushed off the apron. Tama Tonga backs into a BFT from LA Knight. 1, 2, 3. LA Knight gets the win here over Tama Tonga. Not much to talk about here. It was a solid match. You want to see your U.S. champion competing. This was good. I like Tama Tonga. Nothing to complain about. I'll pop it.
Yeah, it's kind of like that movie. Much to do about nothing.
Yeah.
That's how this was. I'm dropping this one.
Okay.
Just because you didn't really get any story beats. I feel like the U.S. title should be a bigger deal, and I know we have the number 1 contender match coming. Just felt like it was a match to have a match, which is fine. Yeah. But we are a few weeks out of Mania, and it's like, I would kind of like to see a little bit something more for LA Knight. Solo trying to get involved. Solo doesn't get the upper hand even after LA Knight wins. Solo obviously goes in to try to attack him. He can't even do that there. Solo just once again striking out.
Yeah, I agree. This was a lot to do about nothing. I'm going to pop it because I did like the match. I like seeing Tama Tonga. I'm a Tama Tonga guy. Yeah. And I have a really big soft spot for LA Knight. I love LA Knight. I think he's improved a lot. But I think tonight's match, even booking this, is a bigger issue overall. I think WWE has really forgotten about their mid-card titles going into WrestleMania. I mean, you have Braun Breaker, who is kind of clouded in the Finn Balor Judgment Day stuff with Penta tacked on there. But other than that, you have Lyra and Chelsea. Chelsea, once again, wasn't on TV this week. Lyra, we don't know what's next for her. And then you have the U.S. title scene over on SmackDown now with LA Knight that's kind of just like, okay, it's going to be Jacob Fatu, but is the Jacob Fatu Solo Sikoa storyline really the key part of that? So it feels like the mid-card titles are really being left out of this WrestleMania 41 picture.
Yeah, you look at we'll break it down by a title. So you look at the men's IC with Braun Breaker. The more interesting story is Finn and Dom, not the title.
Yep.
You look at the women's IC over there. I mean, she's in a tag team with Bayley for next week on SmackDown, but she also thinks that Bayley's going to come after her. So it's just weird. Chelsea Green, like you said, once again, not on TV this week. Seems like a real missed opportunity. Her or the Secret Harvest, nothing. Just seems like you could have penciled in something. And then you look at LA Knight, U.S. title. That's just kind of thrown in there. Much more excited about the Fatu solo stuff. So it's like, especially the 2 men's titles, the stories that are around those aren't about the title. They're about other things. And then the 2 women's mid-card titles, they're practically non-existent right now. They're in a not good spot.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense, especially when you look at who your champions are. Lyra Valkyria, Chelsea Green, LA Knight, and Braun Breaker. That's your future. That's your foundation of a lot of things here in WWE. And the fact that none of them really have any relevant stories going to WrestleMania makes me kind of like, what are you doing? I know that LA Knight and Braun Breaker are for sure going to have matches at WrestleMania. And Braun Breaker is much closer to having an actual storyline. We probably will get with Penta come Monday night. But like, even Braun Breaker, it's more about the Judgment Day stuff with Dom and Finn. And then here on LA Knight, it's Solo and Jacob. That's the real story. So the belts are just being tacked on because you have to have the belts there at WrestleMania. So it just feels like WWE is completely just glossing over their mid-card title division, which doesn't make any sense. These are brand new belts. Even the U.S. title and Intercontinental title got new designs recently. Like it was a whole new refurbishment. So you'd think we'd care more about this stuff, but we just seem to not.
Yeah, and last point before we move on, you could even take it one step further. Your tag team titles as well. I mean, Raw's kind of non-existent, right? Women's tag titles, I know we'll get to that in a little bit, but like those are kind of non-existent. SmackDown, you have a little bit, but also at the same time, nothing really to drive home.
Let's get into this real quick because you just mentioned it. Nick Aldis did announce a tournament, women's tag team tournament to determine gauntlet to determine who's going to fight Liv and Raquel for the titles. It was like PFC without Sonya. So it was Shayna Baszler and Zoe Stark. It was the Party Girls. It was Maxine and Natalya. It was Piper and Alba, right?
And then Lyra and Bayley.
So that's how we're going to determine Liv and Raquel's opponent.
And maybe, I could be wrong, maybe B-Fab and Michin.
Yeah, they were maybe in there. It was very quick, and I didn't have time to write it all down. I apologize. But no matter who's in it, it feels like, oh, so this is what we're doing. We're doing a gauntlet match to determine Liv Morgan's opponent at WrestleMania. That feels cheap, man. I don't know. Yeah, I'm gonna give that a drop.
Yeah, I'm dropping that as well. It also, they didn't make a big deal about this. This was a minute and a half backstage. Hey, I'm gonna stand in the room and I'm gonna say, well, I talked with Adam Pearce and we need those on Mania, and so we're gonna do a gauntlet match because the women's tag division is so strong. And then they throw the teams up there, and you're like, what?
I haven't seen half these teams.
Yeah. I mean, Natalya and Maxine have literally never tagged.
Literally never. I mean, Lyra and Bayley. Literally.
And they're also somewhat maybe feuding over the IC. It's just...
Yeah, they have a match on Monday.
Yeah.
So they're going to have a match on Monday for the IC title, and then they're going to be okay, well.
Yep.
Try not to talk about
That's what I was saying. Yeah.
Try not to talk
That doesn't make any sense. And they also, once again, weren't on... they weren't on TV.
Yeah, we're on TV. Anyway, Byron Saxton's now catching Paul Heyman in the garage. Paul Heyman is sitting there waiting for his tribal chief to arrive, and Byron Saxton asks him if he knows anything about this favor, and Paul's like, if I did, why would I be talking to you? And he turns to the camera, us, the people, and literally grabs the camera and aims it at his own face. And he talks about, no matter what this favor is, CM Punk, my answer is yes. That was a big deal. And behind him, you see a car pulling down. A tribal chief's here. Uh-oh. But Seth Rollins pops out. He's happy. And he says, cheer up, Paul. What were you expecting? The other Shield guy to come here? You look awful, and I feel great. I know I had a little bit of a breakdown last week after I found out about Punk main eventing WrestleMania, but I've gotten over it. And I'm thinking that this favor is going to affect me too. So if you're going to be waiting for Roman to get here to talk about the favor, let me know too, because I want to know as well. And that's when something happened. Next thing happened. Charlotte Flair and Tiffany Stratton.
One quick thing before we go on.
Okay.
I want to talk about it because I brought it up in the live stream. The best part about this Heyman Rollins thing is you see the car in the background, and you'll have to go back and watch it. The car is sitting with the lights on while Paul Heyman is cutting this promo.
Hey, all right.
And then he says, yes, CM Punk, whatever the favor is. And that must have been the trigger word because then the car comes down.
They had the stream on in the car. It was a little delayed. Anyway, Charlotte comes on. It's a face-to-face. Charlotte and Tiffany Stratton are face-to-face, and Mr. Wade Barrett is the moderator. Good to see.
Yeah, you could say Charlotte versus Charlotte or Tiffany versus Tiffany.
They came out in the same gear. They were wearing the same gear, which I know is part of the storyline. The whole thing is that Charlotte thinks that Tiffany is trying to be the new Charlotte Flair. So that adds that layer, but it was a little weird. It was like,
well, it also didn't get touched on.
Yeah, no one mentioned it.
Nobody said anything.
Definitely thought Charlotte would mention it.
I get that it's part of the storyline, but nobody said anything about it.
So before we get into this, what you need to know going into this promo segment is Chicago was loud for this. And they booed the hell out of Charlotte, like Dom level boos on Raw when he normally gets, versus Tiffany, who they cheered the hell out of like she was damn Cody Rhodes. So that's a big part of this.
She straight up said, "What time is it?" And the overwhelming Tiffy time.
It was Tiffy time.
Loudest Tiffy time we've gotten in a while.
Ever, probably. And Charlotte said, you know what? Tiffany begged for this. She begged for this, and guess what? I hadn't done charity in a while, so I decided to give her this match. There are no comparisons to me, and I will prove that at WrestleMania. And Tiffany comes back and says, your biggest competitor isn't me or isn't anybody in this ring. It's actually the crowd, because you'll never win them over. You act like you're above everybody, but then you go cry on a talk show, which is a real life little spilling of the tea there. She goes, it doesn't matter how many titles you have, you'll always come up short when they talk about your daddy Rick. And this is where things got a little weird. Because
almost uncomfortable
because Charlotte replies immediately, you're just like everybody else saying that, because people do always bring up her dad, right? But then the Chicago crowd took over the segment. They got so loud that Charlotte couldn't get a word out. Tiffany couldn't get a workout. Wade couldn't get a workout. Like, the crowd got so loud and booing Charlotte whenever she put the mic to her mouth. They booed her to the point where Charlotte didn't know what to do. She got flustered off her ass, man. And Tiffany even stepped in and said, what, cat got your tongue, Charlotte? And she took so much time and not saying anything. Wrestling segments are on time, right, based. And Flair ended up just saying, you know what, go ahead, Tiffany, you get the last word. It was like, huh, okay, you're not going to rebuttal? Okay. She just brought up your personal life and your dad and everything. Okay. Yeah. And Tiff said, you're just mad because at 25 years old, you were chasing your volleyball career and getting drunk in your daddy's basement. And at 25, I'm the world champion. And you say this is just another match for you? I've gotten into your head, Charlotte. You're the queen of shit now. And Charlotte starts making fun of Tiffany's voice. That's all that she really has time to get out.
Squeaking, yeah.
The high-pitched squeaking. So Charlotte's now resorted to just like mocking her,
like
mimicking her.
Call, like very kindergarten-y. Your voice.
I'm Tiffany Stratton. Yeah, and Tiff calls her a Nepo baby and everything breaks loose. And then eventually Tiff just grabs the mic and looks at her and goes, when this is all done, you're just like whatever. I don't even know what I just said. Your record will be just like it is outside of the ring alone. You'll be just like you are outside of the ring alone. 0-3, which is alluding to Charlotte's marriages, her divorces, and she takes off out of the ring.
She hits the woo and she rolls out.
Yeah, she hits the woo and then she rolls out.
And your favorite part, then Tiffany is getting cheered from the crowd, and then she walks up and then she holds the title upside down.
Yeah.
Which you like. You like that part.
This was something. The crowd took over this segment. Charlotte couldn't get a word out. I don't know if Tiffany was good or if she was just sending cheap shots, right? She was getting very personal with Charlotte, bringing up her personal life and all that stuff with her dad. I don't know how I felt about this. I mean, I really don't. This was more about the crowd taking over the rivalry than it was the rivalry getting any better. I was interested the entire time, so I'm just going to go ahead and give it a pop.
Yeah, Can I give it a prop? Can I go in the middle?
I don't know, man.
Can I go in the middle?
First ever.
Yeah, so you talk about it a little bit at the beginning of the segment. I think it's important to talk about because the crowd was giving what Tiffany needed. Tiffany needed that support, which I think is really big. And you're like, okay, this is what we need. We need the crowd to cheer Tiffany overwhelmingly, and they need to boo Charlotte for this to really kind of work. But then, like you said, Charlotte got flustered, and we don't really see that a ton. So she got flustered very quickly. And then Tiffany with the personal stuff, you could tell it even rattled Charlotte a little bit more. And I know WWE in the past, there's obviously very personal stuff that gets talked about.
Yep.
Sometimes it gets cleared, sometimes it doesn't. I don't know. Who knows? Not us. But you could tell Charlotte's rattled, and then at the end of it, Tiffany says that stuff, woos, and rolls out. And at the end of it, I'm finding myself thinking just like, this was a mess.
Yeah.
That's really all that I'm thinking. Like, it didn't progress anything for me. It didn't devalue anything for me. I felt the same way about it as I felt before tonight. And I'm like, the only thing I think is, wow, that was a mess. And I'm kind of just waiting for this to be over at this point.
Yeah, I don't really know what to say about it. Honestly, it really was kind of a mind-boggling. I've never seen a crowd really take over a promo segment like that, but then the superstars not be able to handle it because it felt like neither side knew what the hell to do. And it also felt like Tiffany just kind of ended up seeing her opportunity to kind of cut deep with a real life cheap shot that could probably get her over. I know that she's probably been hearing what most people are saying and that Charlotte's kind of been cutting her up on the mic, but Charlotte's been doing it in a kayfabe way within storyline. And I'm always down when we bring in personal stuff every once in a while, but I also feel like you kind of have to earn it. And Tiffany hasn't earned that sort of moment on the mic. Like she hasn't stood up to Charlotte at all within kayfabe, within story. She hasn't felt like her character is standing on her 2 feet against Charlotte Flair, and to just like at the end take out the real life knife and get her in the side with some like personal divorce stuff. It felt like, okay, that was a little cheap. Did I pop it in the moment? Like, yeah, I was kind of like, oh, but
Shock jock type thing.
Yeah, it was like a shock thing. It was like, oh, damn, I can't believe she said that. So I don't know. I'm with you. I don't think that this promo did anything for anybody. If anything, it just proves that like this feud alone doesn't really matter who's in it. It feels like just one side is the bad person and one side's the good person. And like we have to cheer one side and boo the other in terms of Charlotte and Tiff. And the crowd showed that tonight. They didn't care about what anything was being said in the ring. They were just there to boo Charlotte and cheer Tiffany. And that's what I feel like WrestleMania is going to be. Like this build hasn't been anything. But at Mania, we're going to boo Charlotte and we're going to cheer Tiffany. That's about it.
Yeah, and it does kind of go back to Charlotte's point, like original point, kind of after Charlotte won the Rumble, about how invested the fans or other superstars are in her personal life.
Yeah.
Like that did just kind of prove her point. I just thought about that there. But yeah, for me, it's just like, I'm finding myself like, I know the bell's going to ring. I know it's going to be a fantastic match, but in terms of this build, it's almost like I don't want to see it anymore because it's like, this is a mess. I mean, this summarized the feud. Like, okay, you got Charlotte, you got Tiffany. They wore the same stuff out and nobody talked about it. Imitation of real life or however you want to describe it. There's some cheap shots. And then at the end of the time, there's like awkward stumbling over words or being flustered. And I understand like things happen, but it seems like every week we're talking about, hey, this didn't hit. Hey, this didn't hit. Hey, this didn't hit. And so for me, it's like, I know it's the title match. I know we're going to get it. The match is going to be great, but I would almost rather see like backstage stuff, recorded stuff, and then give more time to somebody else because this, I'm like, this is just get it away from me.
Even Wade was sitting there like, I don't know what to do.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what to do. I'm literally, for the first time ever on our reviews, I'm changing my pop to a drop. Talking about it and working through it in my head, I'm like, yeah, this is bad. It was just bad, man. So I'm dropping.
Yeah, like I said, early on, like the first 30 seconds, you're like, this is what Tiffany needs. And then it just was like,
it was a lot.
But you couldn't turn away.
No, you couldn't turn away. That's true. It was like it was a car accident, You got to watch it. Motor City Machine Gun was taking on DIY for the #1 contendership. Street Profits were watching here, and this was a Motor City Machine Guns versus DIY match, right? Mm-hmm. We've seen it a lot of times, and I'm not complaining. Great match. Absolutely great. We get all the good stuff. Eventually, you get, DIY started early, and they would do the heel stuff. They'd run around the ring. Eventually, kind of distract the ref, cheat, and start beating up on one of them. I think it was Shelly who took most of the beating throughout the match until Motor City Machine Guns got the hot tag to Saban, who put on a show. But eventually, we would get a bunch of stuff happening. So Ciampa would distract the ref, and Gargano would stop the Skull and Bones from happening. And then during that, though, when whoever got pushed off the top rope, I don't know if it was Shelly or Saban, but
Saban
took the turnbuckle off. And that left the turnbuckle open, and we get a bunch of shenanigans throughout for the next couple of minutes about the turnbuckle, and the ref was trying to stop the turnbuckle from happening.
Baby Nature's, what the hell?
Yeah, Baby Nature's like, what the hell? Why'd you do this to my ring? But eventually,
as if the guy had a choice.
Yeah, but eventually, maybe Nate should be focusing on somebody else. I think it was Gargano on the outside or something. And Ciampa would go for a running move on Sabin, but he would end up eating the turnbuckle and then getting rolled up 1, 2, 3. Motor City Machine Guns. They win. They're going to be the ones taking on Street Profits for the titles somewhere
next week.
They
didn't say that. I'm assuming next week.
I don't know.
There's too much chaos to not be next week.
I don't know what's going on with the tag team division on SmackDown. All they're doing is giving us fantastic matches, but story-wise, I mean, we are just the markers everywhere, like Nick Aldis had a few months ago doing the thing on the chalkboard. I'm going to pop it because I enjoyed the match. If you want to talk about the story, I'm going to have to drop it, but I don't really care about the story at this point. I just watch SmackDown tag matches to have fun, and so I had fun. Pop.
I'm going to drop this one.
Yeah, that's fine. That's totally fine. Yeah.
I'm dropping it because, like you said, the story. We think there's going to be a 6 tag team match, which is fine. Whatever. At this point, it is what it is. You brought up a great point that we've seen this multiple times.
Yeah.
And so the crowd, this was probably the most dead the crowd was tonight.
By far.
Maybe in the next part. But yeah, I mean, the crowd was dead. The crowd was not on board for this. The crowd did not cheer for it. And so for me, it was really hard to get invested. Like, I get it. It was a good match. I know what I saw. They're both fantastic teams. They both work well together. They both have chemistry. We've seen it so many times. So it was just like, eh. And then at the end, they go over and talk to Street Profits, and Street Profits hold the titles up, and you're just like, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, that's exactly how I feel. like legitimately, like it feels like every week we have new number one contenders for the championships, and it feels like every few weeks we have new champions with the belts. So it's just like, okay, we're just continuing to do this. Fine. You're going to give me cool matches? Sure. But if you're asking me if I'm like invested in the storyline of the SmackDown tag team, not at all. Not in the slightest.
Yeah. I mean, like we were saying earlier in the beginning, like your mid card and your tag titles, the stories are just kind of not there.
Speaking of tag teams, Mellow Miz is backstage when they run into Pretty Deadly. They start talking that smack. Pretty Deadly doesn't like them. They don't like Pretty Deadly. So guess what? We're on a wrestling show. We're going to be wrestling next week. And Miz leaves the segment by saying, we are awesome. So that's the thing there.
I like that humor. So I'm here for it.
B-Fab.
That just continues into that's your 6 tag team.
There you go.
Right there.
B-Fab is taking on Naomi in a match. And B-Fab's already in the ring. Naomi comes out. Jade's there. Attack from behind during Naomi, who needs to change her theme song. She has the Glow theme song still, and it doesn't really fit because she's a bit bad person now. And a little weird.
Yeah. Jade with some badass gear again. Well, and Naomi had some badass gear too.
Yeah.
Jade
attacks. She starts beating her down. Every security guard in the arena comes out there to stop Jade from beating up Naomi, but Naomi ends up back in the ring while security takes Jade to the back. The second Naomi gets in the ring, ref's like, oh, she's good. Ring the bell. Ding, ding. So Naomi's like, oh, she's staggered. I was like, what? Why'd you start the match, ref? You didn't check on her? Like, come on.
Didn't need to.
I guess not. But B-Fab.
She's a heel. You don't do that.
Yeah, that's true. B-Fab would start. The ref was like, she's badass. Screw her.
Yeah.
B-Fab would start the match strong, obviously, because Naomi's hurt. She'd hit a bunch of high boots. She'd give her a rock bottom, basically. I don't know what they're gonna call it. But
yeah, I don't know.
Basically a rock bottom. Until randomly just the switch flipped. Boom. Naomi gets offense in and puts her on the turnbuckle and does like a turnbuckle stomp, and then hits this new finishing move that they didn't have a name for yet. They called it a modified lawnmower finish. So she hits that 1, 2, 3. Naomi wins it. She gets the mic and says, "Where are you, Jade?" And she calls out Jade, but Jade gets behind her. She's already behind her. Pops out of nowhere. She starts attacking Naomi and goes for her finisher, but now all security caught up. Wouldn't let Jade get the finisher off on Naomi. Nick Aldis comes out and he says that we're getting that match at WrestleMania. I actually did not like this segment very much. I thought it was a jumbled mess, and I wanted more Jade-Naomi interaction, and I feel like we got screwed out of a real B-Fab match, so I'm going to drop it. But we are officially getting it at WrestleMania. We're getting Jade. We're getting Naomi in a WrestleMania match. A lot of people thought that this match would probably miss Mania, either go before or after the card, but they have deserved it. Naomi's doing some of the best heel work of her career, some of the best work of her career. Jade is looking like she could be the future of the women's division on SmackDown. cannot wait for this match. So I'm very happy about that.
Yeah, I'm gonna pop it just for that.
Yeah.
Which seems kind of weird. Like you said, it was kind of a mess.
Yeah.
Everything was kind of jumbled and just kind of like, well, at the end we get WrestleMania, we get the match. So it's like, okay, you know what? I'll pop it. Yeah, and this match is going to be a damn good one. I mean, we talk about stories all the time. This is arguably the most story-driven match there is on the card. You look at somebody like Jade, who's coming back from the injury, and she kind of maybe needs the win, first solo match at Mania, right? But then you also have Naomi, who's doing the best work of her career in WWE, I would argue. You kind of can't slow that momentum as well. So it's like, this one's going to be really interesting to see how these next couple of weeks develop, and then ultimately who comes out on the other side.
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad they pulled the trigger and let this be a WrestleMania match. You could have easily pulled, just thrown it down the line at Backlash or something and said that, well, there's no belt involved. We already have a bunch of matches, so we'll push it off a little bit. I'm glad that they're giving them this because they both deserve it. It'll be nice to see Jade at WrestleMania, and it'll be nice to see Naomi be her best version of herself going into a WrestleMania. I'm very curious as to who they're going to have win this thing, because you could argue both of them very well, because Jade's obviously like set in stone as being one of their cornerstones for the rest of the women's division in the foreseeable future. But you also have Naomi, who just recently became this super heel that's doing super good work. And it always feels like when the heel loses right away, it always feels like, well, why did they heel turn? So that gets me very interested in this match, because I'm not sure who's going to win. It's all you want from a great feud going into WrestleMania, so I can't wait.
Yeah, and as we talk about new music for Naomi, I think that comes out at Mania.
Yeah.
What better way?
No music. It's the opposite of glow. It's just completely dark, the entire arena. Sad part of wrestling, sometimes people get injured, and throughout the day today, there were reports going around online saying that Kevin Owens was shoot hurt. He was really hurt, and he might miss WrestleMania. Nick Aldis was standing in the ring to call him out to speak on this, and when KO got out, he said his tone was definitely not heel Kevin Owens, and that's when you normally know something's a little wrong here. He says, I've been doing this for 25 years. I've given everything to this business. There's a price to pay. There's a toll that is taken on our bodies. Everybody in the back that has done this knows this, and he goes, now it is unfortunately my turn. He goes, 4 months ago, I've been dealing with a neck injury, and now I've figured out that I need surgery on it. The timing could not be worse, because I really wanted to fight Randy Orton at WrestleMania. Don't take anything for granted, people. I'm sorry to everyone, and thank you. And Randy comes out, and this was our last little bit of hope as this being just an angle of some sort. But they acknowledged each other on the apron, gave each other a head nod, and Randy entered the ring, and KO walked away. Nick Aldis takes the mic and says, Randy, you no longer have a match at WrestleMania, unfortunately. And we were sitting there waiting for what Randy was going to say, but Randy didn't say anything. He just RKO'd the shit out of Nick Aldis. I'm going to not pop or drop this because it wasn't good, and we can't drop it because you can't just be like, oh, screw this. The real question here is, Kevin Owens has now officially announced that he's injured, and that sucks. He's doing the best work of his career by a long shot, in my opinion. I was really looking forward to heel KO versus Randy Orton. But now that he has surgery, Randy Orton has seemingly nobody to face. But it sounds like they want to do something for him at WrestleMania. He RKO'd Nick Aldis, so we're getting something there. What's next for Randy Orton at WrestleMania?
Yeah. You say not pop or drop this. I am going to drop it just because of the sadness.
That's
like, just because you're like, damn, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, hopefully KO gets a speedy recovery and everything's okay and all that good stuff. Because like I said, he's doing some of the best work he's ever done. So that sucks. Sucks to see anybody get hurt. As for Randy Orton, I don't know. I don't know if they know, but let me tell you, the Nick Aldis Randy Orton thing sounds kind of cool. Randy Orton RKOing him at least, and Nick looking up at him like, what the hell, man? Obviously, we know Nick has a great professional wrestling career. He wants to get back in the ring. Why not just do it? You do kind of run into the fact of people love Randy Orton so much, so maybe you're in a weird spot of everybody loves Randy Orton, but it's also Nick Aldis. So how does that work? And then maybe the fallout after that, because you can't just have just a match, and then at the end of the day, Friday after Mania, go back and bygones are bygones. And I mean, maybe they can, but as soon as he hit that RKO, I thought, oh man, that'd be really cool.
Yeah, I mean, I think the best case scenario for Randy here would be to fight one of the new guys, returning guys to wrestling, to WWE. I would like maybe he runs into someone like Aleister Black. Maybe you get Rusev back in there. It'd just be a big moment for somebody to come back and establish some big time. I'd do something to where he does kind of like what Seth Rollins did against Cody Rhodes at WrestleMania 38 when Cody made his big return. You could do that in a smaller fashion, right? You could have Randy go out there, challenge whoever, and then have an Aleister Black show up, have a Rusev show up, and have a 5, 7, 8 minute match. It wouldn't be a big deal. Randy Orton needs to be on the card, though. No matter what, he's getting up there in age. We don't know how many WrestleManias we have for Randy Orton. We can't miss this one. But at the end of the day, it's not really about Randy's doing it at WrestleMania. Hopefully KO gets better. We want him to come back. Hopefully he gets his neck done and all that good stuff. You know, wishes well to Kevin Owens.
Yeah. If he didn't retire, I would have said him versus Speed.
That'd be sick.
But Speed retired. So
Speed retired.
Yeah.
Got a long-term booking.
Yeah.
Last man standing match. Jacob Fatu, Braun Strowman. This one was something. Fatu would attack during the entrance, and they go everywhere during this match. I don't think they got in the ring for 10 minutes. They spilled out into the crowd. They were hitting each other with garbage cans and steel chairs. They got on the conveniently stacked boxes out in the crowd that were right next to some tables, and Braun Strowman suplexed Jacob Fatu through the tables, got like an 8 count there. Braun Strowman did the run around the ring thing, and he did it through the barricade on Jacob Fatu. They got like an 8 there. Ref was counting fast this match, which was kind of crazy.
So they had time to make up.
Yeah, they had time to make up.
Come on, we gotta go.
Anyway, there was it was a furniture match, as they call it, right? A lot of chair shots, a lot of garbage can shots, a lot of table breakings, but it did come down to one table that was leaned up against the ropes or the turnbuckles in the side, and Jacob Fatu did the tribal cheeks hip toss through the table to Braun Strowman, which would keep him down for the 10 count. That means Jacob Fatu has defeated Braun Strowman and will take on LA Knight for that U.S. title. They didn't announce whether that was going to be at WrestleMania or not. There was no drama with Solo Sikoa and Jacob Fatu this week, so I don't really know what the hell's happening here overall. This match was totally fine. I'll give it a pop, and my main pop is hopefully this is the end of Braun Strowman versus Jacob Fatu. Let's move the hell on from it.
Yeah, I'm going to pop this as well for that reason. Yeah. Hopefully it's the end of it. We had thought we were getting a fatal 4-way. Obviously, that's not the case. You get maybe a triple threat, maybe. And the tribal cheeks through the table is a cool way to win. So I'll pop it for that. But we talked about another thing where it's like, you know, we've seen this and we've seen it and we've seen it. No drama with LA, really. No drama with Solo. No nothing. You know, no malarkey, no baloney, no shenanigans. Just all gas, no breaks. Post to post, coast to coast sort of thing, you know?
Yeah, I know what I mean.
I'm getting everything.
Getting
everything in there. Getting all the shtick in.
Yeah, we already talked about the mid card and how I feel about it. I completely agree. We have 2 more Smackdowns. There was nothing after this match that changed how the story with the US title is going. We don't even get like if it's a WrestleMania match, which feels weird to have a title match 2 weeks before WrestleMania. That just feels weird. We don't normally get that. We'll wait and see. I love Jacob Fatu. I love LA Knight. Hopefully they put on a show. If it's at Mania, that'd be great. But
I'm going to assume that match is going to be, this is just my assumption.
Next week.
And then you got Solo somehow doing something, and then you get the triple threat at Mania. That's what I'm
No Braun?
No Braun.
No Braun BW. That'd be awesome. If we get Solo, Fatu, LA, that'd be great.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's probably just what you do. I mean, that's what I would do. Because I feel like Solo, he's got to make the card.
Yeah.
Maybe not, but.
We're moving on. Mr. Paul Heyman's still waiting in that garage. Hopefully they got him some water or something. He's sitting there ready to praise his tribal chief, and he's not showing up. But when he does, after the commercial break, he does finally show up, and he walks right past Paul Heyman. Doesn't even acknowledge
Badass new shirt.
Badass new shirt. It's awesome. But he walks right to the ring. So we get the whole shot from the back all the way to the ring. And he makes Chicago acknowledge him, and he does. They do. Chicago acknowledges their tribal chief, even though they're in punk land, obviously. And he says, "Wise man, is he here?" "Yes, my tribal chief." "Is he still talking about that favor?" "Yes, my tribal chief." "Should I tell you a secret?" "Yes, my tribal chief." And he says, "Punk wouldn't even be here without me." he wouldn't even be in this main event without me. I'm the reason that he's here. So guess what, Punk? You should probably just come out here. We'll talk about this favor and get done with it. And wasn't CM Punk that came out to talk about the favor. It was Seth Rollins. Seth Rollins comes out. He says, I wouldn't miss this for the world. I got a feeling that this favor will knock your socks off, Mr. Roman. He says, reality is about to bite you in the ass, Roman. You've underestimated Punk for too long. You keep trying to ignore him. And now he is main eventing WrestleMania because of you. You need to adapt and control this reality. And Roman says, I would believe you and control my reality, but I'm not going to trust you because I will never trust you. You're untrustworthy. You're not loyal. Punk is here because my wise man made him a promise, and I made a promise to my wise man to protect him, and that's why Punk stands as is. I'm here for him, not you. I called him out, not you, so I don't even know why you're here. And when that happens, Punk does come out.
Yeah, after Seth calls him out. Seth's like, oh, yeah, well, let's just get to this favor.
You're right. I don't know why I'm here. Punk comes out, and he says, the favor. What is it? It's all about friendship. The favor is about friendship. It's about legacy. It's about promises, and it's about loyalty. Because your wise man is very wise, Mr. Roman Reigns. And he goes into this long storied past that him and Paul Heyman have, and the reasons why they are best friends, and the reasons why this favor has accrued over time. And he goes, when we spoke to each other, Paul, in the past, you said one day you will main event WrestleMania. And he said, when that time comes, CM Punk, you tell them that you will have to deal with us, meaning CM Punk and Paul Heyman. So Punk looks Roman in the eye and says, Roman, I will face you at WrestleMania, but you will have to deal with me and your wise man. Paul, my best friend, will be in my corner at WrestleMania.
Which is a nice little callback to best friend line to earlier in the night when Paul says that Punk is his best friend.
Yeah. So
Very
things are
nice.
getting spooky, but Roman's laughing.
Mm-hmm.
Roman he's not taking it seriously. And he says, that's the favor? And he's laughing. He says, he loves me. My wise man needs me. I saved him. Even if I let him join you, he wouldn't. So wise man, let him down easy.
Mm-hmm.
Wise man's taking some time. Wise man's crying. Roman even turns and looks at him and goes, you crying? He said, are you crying? Tell him no. Tell him no. And Paul Heyman looks at Roman Reigns and he says, no, my tribal chief, I can't do that. And Roman, pissed, starts backing Paul up into the corner. It's looking like he's going to strike Paul in some fashion. When CM Punk, he jumps on him, and he ends up GTSing Roman Reigns, staring down Seth Rollins as the camera pans out for SmackDown. Woo! Oh, man. We have finally figured out what the favor is at the moment. We will see. But at the moment, the favor stands that Paul Heyman will be in CM Punk's corner come WrestleMania 41. What do you think about this being the favor? Is it the real favor? This is great. I'm popping the whole thing.
I'm going to pop it. You even get Roman laying his hand on Paul in the corner. Seth's just like a bystander. I kind of like that tonight. Seth played his role well, just like an annoying little guy in the corner. Just go over there sort of thing. Is this the real favor? I would say I hope not. I feel like, at least for wrestling fans, everybody's been wondering for months and months and months, what is the favor? It has to come into play at Mania, right? Is it after Mania? What does Punk somehow get inserted into Cody and Cena on night 2? You've seen that thrown around a little bit here. I would hope that it's not, because I feel like they built this up for so long that it feels kind of somewhat underwhelming. Now, even though it might be underwhelming, I think everybody involved is so good at their characters and in terms of conveying messages, matches, storytelling, that this will be good, that it'll work. They'll make it work. They're that good at it. But as a whole, if I had to sit here and look at it, it'd be like, well, that's the favor. I mean, Roman even says it. Well, that's the favor. Like, so for me, I would say not the favor, but it makes me wonder, like, did they really have a clear path? Because I don't think they had a clear path in terms of what the favor would be at the end of the road.
This was a great turn. I like it. I think it's interesting going into the match for Roman to be in a match, but Paul Heyman be the guy that comes out with CM Punk. That's cool. But in terms of it being the favor, this big favor that we waited ever since Survivor Series for, what could it be? What could it be? What could it be? It feels like a little bit like, okay. Okay, really? That's your favor? Out of all these favors that we've come up with, that us fans have theorized over the past 5 months, that seems really underwhelming. Now, they have time, and it wasn't really established that like 100% was the favor, so I think we may get one more twist and turn coming up, and I think we won't really know what the full favor is until WrestleMania. But, I'll give them the benefit of the doubt here. Hopefully they've figured this one out, or they've thought this one out well enough to where we do have a through line like that. But, I'm excited for it.
Yeah, I would sit here and think that that's what they want everybody to think. They want everybody to be like, that's the favor. That's it.
Yeah.
Really, because like you said, it's ending night 1 for a reason. So, like, you got to bring something, right? There's got to be some sort of shock value at the end. So, I would say I would agree with you. Like, something's happening at Mania. That's the real ultimate favor. Like you said, we didn't get confirmation. So maybe this is just a favor to the favor. Punk does mention, earlier in the night that Paul is stacking up favors for him, right?
Yeah.
Like in terms of like, okay, well, I've got to do this and I've got to do this. So maybe that's kind of what they're playing on.
Yeah, I don't know. It felt a little underwhelming. The segment was really good.
Mm-hmm.
Really, really, really good. And it being the through line of the night was awesome. I liked that.
Yeah.
But the favor itself, if that is it, will be a little underwhelming to me. Now, we got time, so who knows? But yeah, the feuds feels like a night 1 main event, which is literally all I want. So it's good stuff. It was 13 pops this week to 8 drops. I feel like that was fair. I feel like that was very fair. Right. Yeah.
Everything seemed about 50-50 tonight.
Decent episode with just some moments. It felt like
decent episode. A few weeks before Mania, probably not as good as an episode as you probably want to have, but we don't write the stuff.
We're going into our final 2 weeks. As of Monday, it'll be our last 2 weeks of Raw SmackDown Mania. So it's going to be real good. We hope to see you guys at our live streams right here on youtube.com/@CODWrestlePod. We do Raw, SmackDown, and WrestleMania on our live stream. We will be giving away a world title replica belt. So be there. It'll be a lot of fun. But on all of our other socials, follow us at CODWrestlePod, COD WrestlePod, YouTube, Spotify, Apple, wherever you get your podcast. We have a link tree in our bio. It's got all of us there. Follow all that good stuff there. But I'm Will. That's Brandon. We are the Cousins of Destruction Wrestling Podcast. We will see you next time.